See if that works. I've never done StreamYard, so.
I think we're on.
Are you live?
Yes, I think so. Yes, we are live. So we are live here for the first time with Amber and Kelly.
Hello.
So bear with us, guys. This is our first time all together.
Yes, first time all together, and it's on live stream with you all. So hello.
So just to start off the bat, if you guys have not checked these ladies out, make sure you guys go check their channels out. I've done so this morning. I was doing my little stalking of channels today, so I was watching some videos. So definitely go over there, give these ladies some love.
Thank you. And Kelly is on TikTok too. So
oh, yes.
You can find her and watch stuff on TikTok too.
I have TikTok, but it's more goofy, nerdy stuff.
Yeah, TikTok and YouTube are two separate worlds. It's interesting.
I did have that with Twitch, or I do have that with Twitch and YouTube, where Twitch I just do my gaming, as you will. So, but it sounds like with you guys coming in here, we're gonna get off to the bat because we're only gonna be doing this for an hour. We got some kids to take care of tomorrow for school and so forth. So, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to all channels. And the thing that we're going to start off the bat is we're going to start talking about some interesting, I wouldn't say conspiracies, try to stay away from that, but we're going to be talking about his different confessions and why do they keep changing and so forth. Amber did come up with a good point. What was you said something else as well.
How long, do we believe that the affair was really 6 weeks, like
yes.
Nicole and Chris both claim?
I myself do not believe it was just 6 weeks. Why would an accidental typing somehow be accidental that she was looking at Chris and Shanann a year before? There's no way you can say, oh, it was an accident. I was looking up Japanese culture and somehow got Shanann Watts. I mean,
exactly. And again, the fact that they never dove into that is super frustrating. But I tend to agree. If there wasn't like an active affair going on, I believe that they at the very least knew of each other a lot longer. I think Chris knew of her, she knew of Chris. And again, if there was not an active affair going on, I think there was some more stuff before the 6 week period for sure. In my opinion.
I agreed.
Yeah, I think that there's a problem too with us kind of proving our theory that it was longer than 6 weeks, because if you look at even Shanann's text messages in the discovery, they only go back to a certain amount of time. So learning things through the years, like studying true crime, like I'm under the impression just from what we have in the discovery that, and from Nicole Kessinger's phone records, like they were only approved to go back so far. So it could have been discovered, maybe if they went back even further, like, wait a minute, why were you talking to him? And it's December of 2017 or something like that. But because the warrants, I'm assuming for their phones and for whatever, they've only went back so many weeks.
Exactly.
It's like a problem.
They only go back 6 months, if 3 to 6 months. And if they were talking within almost a year, that warrant doesn't count. And half the time, some of your text messages, emails, they start deleting themselves after 6 months to a year. So it's going to be harder for you to try to bring that back up. Looks like a lot of people are saying the same thing. They think it's more than 6 weeks. Because I honestly can tell you right now, I've been in love quite a few times, but I would not kill in 6 weeks.
Right.
I love my fiance right now, but I don't think I'm going to kill anybody for it.
Right. Yes.
And it's like, okay, so it's hard because my perspective is obviously from the female's point of view, but in her interviews, Nicole had said something about, I would never introduce my friends to him. Like, it's too soon for that. It's too soon, blah, blah, blah. But yet she's over there taking selfies with him and they have these pictures together. And just from being in the dating world around the time that Nicole was like in my 30s still, like now I'm like married, but then I there's no way I'd be taking selfies with a guy that I really wasn't that serious with. Like it just wouldn't really be happening like that. And there was like more than just, oh, let's take a pic together, we're on a date. There was like multiple ones. And they went on these like hikes and stuff, and like, okay, that looks normal. But to be taking these pictures like in the hotel room together, that one of them, and then it just looks way too comfortable and too like permanent. Like it was
makes very good sense what you said.
You know what I mean? Like, Kelly?
And when you really look at the timeline from the text messages that we do have, again, it's been a little while since I've really laid this out, but when you look at how soon it was like, do you think you're the only one who's whatever, I can't get enough? That was either late June or very early July. Then you go back and listen to her interviews, and she claims she went out of town with her friends during the weekend of July 3rd. So again, the verbal timeline that she gives does not add up to the little bit of text messages that we have. And but yeah, I completely agree. Like she downplays it, but then at the same time, she's telling her friend Charlotte about their intimacy, which she left out at first as well. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I think there's just, it's so much deeper. And the fact they didn't get into the calculator app, we're missing so many text messages. We don't even have her phone records, I don't think, until I think mid-July. So there's just so much more there, in my opinion.
Yeah, the few texts we had with them, wasn't it Chris who said like I'm hooked too or something like that, like agreeing with like her saying something along those lines, and then he was like, it's gonna be lonely sleeping, or what was the sleeping text? Not sleeping next to you or something like that.
Yeah, like without your warm body.
Yeah,
and my sweet empanada. Ooh.
Yes.
So it's like empanada. For them to be talking about like, oh, it's not going to be good sleeping without you at that point. That was like end of June. So how is this already creating some sort of pattern with each other?
Exactly. I'm just going to read a couple chats here because it's blowing up right now. Everybody says one of their they're happy three YouTubers got together. My three favorite YouTubers. You guys rock. Subtitles. How do I add subtitles?
I'm trying to think.
I don't know that you can during the live.
So probably after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I got some Russian people in here, so do apologize on the subtitles. I can't do it until after, so you can come back and watch it later. See, a lot of people with the DA. Another one I wanted to talk with you ladies about, because you already hit on the female aspect. I wanted to ask you, would you do all this stuff 6 weeks into a relationship? And you already answered it, so I do appreciate that. But the DA Rourke, what is your partake on this man and his ability to do the job that he was apparently supposed to do?
I am not a fan whatsoever. I think that the crime scene was compromised and messed up from day one. And I can't help but wonder if that was a factor as to why they wanted it closed and shut and tied up with a bow and pushed away, in addition to the bodies being disposed of at an oil site. Big oil is very powerful. I think that's a factor as well. But yeah, DA Rourke, I have no faith in him. I don't care for him. I think the fact that he stood up there at sentencing and stated before the judge in the courtroom that, he killed his wife, loaded her, and then loaded his two daughters like trash. And then it comes out later, oh, well, no, actually they were alive because he said so. I mean, that right there just shows that he didn't do his job correctly. He didn't care. He even did an interview, I believe, after the sentencing. And he said, I don't know if we'll ever really know what happened. I'm also frustrated with his press conferences, the way he brushes over NK. Like, not a fan.
He said something about she was forthcoming for the most part or something like that. And it's like, what?
Yep.
He says something about she definitely hindered the investigation or something like that, deleting the messages. So it's like there has been like verbal admission by him that things don't look right when it comes to the mistress. Even at one point, there was this whole, as soon as the discovery came out and we found out that she was searching Chris and Shanann in 2017 before ever working with Chris, people were obviously wondering what's going on. And not even just us, like it was, I think news agencies pretty much is how they got like a statement from Rourke. And he's pretty much had no explanation. I can't even remember what he said, but he was like, it's not, at first the police, Frederick police put out that it was a typo. And everyone's like, oh, okay, so it was a typo. And then he was asked about it and he came out saying the truth that no, it wasn't a typo. And, he had no explanation for why she was searching them long before she ever knew Chris.
Yeah.
So it's just a very, leaves a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to the corruption, the possible corruption. And I think it's clear as day that there's definitely corruption here. And all he really cared about was getting his conviction and brushing this under the rug, maybe even smoothing things out with the oil company who have so much power in Colorado specifically. And I think we even linked them donating money to like elections that he was tied to. So just full circle comes around as like, this just is not right.
Well, like you put on that subject, like the whole Anadarko was paying things off and so forth, and finding out that this could all have been an insurance claim. That's why he had taken, because he was probably coerced into, hey, if you drop the bodies here, we make it look like an accident. We get what we want, the insurance part, and then you get what you want. Your wife is gone, your kids are gone, and you can start a whole new life with Nicole. Both of us work out in this. Well, his plan was foiled with Nicole Atkinson. So he got the bad end of the deal because he had already disposed of his family. And now Anadarko was going to make it look like an accident, but they never got the chance. I mean, that's scary to think about, that it could be that way, but it's funny that Anadarko went bankrupt. So
yeah, they end up selling it like really soon after or something.
It was within 6 months they sold the whole company.
Yeah, that was another. So it's like, it's just so deep. It's so deep, and it can be so many different things. Like you said, like it could definitely be all that. And I think that there's a lot of questions that people have, like in reference to like the oil leak that was supposed to be being attended to that day. And after Monday, so everybody goes missing on Monday. Nicole Atkinson, all that is on Monday. Tuesday, the company has this company that they contract. It's like this water truck guy that comes through. But Tuesday, this water truck guy comes through for his scheduled like maintenance where they like vacuum out the water from the oil or whatever. And then as the water truck guy is there, like getting ready to do his job, a coworker of Chris's, Troy, comes rolling in and parks his truck so that the water truck guy can't see the shallow grave and the sheet and the rake and all the bags and all that at Serby. And the water truck guy in his police statement that he thought it was unusual that Troy even parked there. So it's like these little things that's like, was Troy trying to hide like what was going on out there? Was he, and he ends up lying to the water truck guy, oh, I'm just looking for a crescent wrench. And then they have to re-interview Troy after everything. But by then, the false confession from Chris that Shanann did this to the kids and he had to do it to her, that's already happened. By the time they interview Troy again, they've already got some confession and they have him cuffed in jail. So it's just like, what's going on? Like, that's just coincidence that he parks right near, the grave.
There are no coincidence.
Yeah, and the discovery lists it as that Troy parked near and adjacent to Shanann's grave. Those are the words in the discovery. And And then they find out about this when Baumhofer is at the scene, and the water truck guy comes back, and Baumhofer talks to him, and he's like, oh yeah, an Anadarko employee was out here Tuesday when I was out here. And they realize it's Troy, and Baumhofer is like, immediately get Troy back in for another interview. And we don't have the audio of Troy McCoy's first interview, only the second. I don't know. We only have notes.
And I think it was Plunder. I don't know if you've heard of that YouTube channel.
I have. Yep.
Okay. So she was the reason why we got the Nicole Kessinger video. At first, it was just given to us in audio form. And we're like, oh, I really wish we could hear her. So then that's why it came out like what, 2022, maybe, Kelly?
Yep.
That
Years
sounds
later.
weird.
Yeah. So she put in some like complaint or some legal complaint where it's like, we as people or this whatever, like we're allowed to have this video. Where is it? Because even in the discovery it said like it was attached or something. But either way, her pushing the envelope to be like, listen, you're owed the public this video. They gave it to us. So I'm wondering still to this day, like if somebody kind of did the same thing, could we get Troy's audio for the first interview?
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm not even asking for the video of Troy. I just hear him, like, because tone is everything too when you're being interviewed.
Oh, yeah. Definitely understand that. I want to just look at chat for a second. I wanted to go and say, Sherry, thank you for the $1.99 dono for the thumbs up. I'm hearing a lot of people in here. They love the ladies. So I wanted to put that so you guys could see that.
Thank you.
We had a donation or a 5 membership from Heather. Thank you so very much. And then we had one other one. Another member, Sherry, had joined the membership. So thank you so very much for that. Let's see. Yeah. So I did speak with Amber already about this. I don't know if Kelly, you were here, but we were talking about if Rourke does not get voted in 2024, that I've heard of something to the line of they might reopen the case if DA Rourke is not in the House anymore. So I'm wondering what you guys would think if this were to open. What would you first want to happen? Obviously.
Well, I think in order to reopen it, new evidence needs to be presented. So I would want to see more of Chris's phone. He claims that he didn't delete messages. We need more like a specific information about his whereabouts, like as far as phone pings, because it's all alleged that this all happened Monday morning before coworkers showed up. And even when Nicole Atkinson is there, many believe everything's said and done as far as like the murders and stuff. I myself am open to the idea that like we just don't know if that's the case. We don't have a time of death for anybody. There's no information about levels of decomp past things being very vague in their autopsies because they're not complete. So I don't know. I guess I would just need more digital evidence as far as like Chris's movements with his phone, and even the Vivint records. The home security system is called Vivint. They sealed up the whole like log.
Yes.
And we only have bits and pieces in the discovery, like, oh, at this time this alert went off or blah, blah, blah. But that's not everything that we could actually look at, which is significant if we're looking at other people being in the house.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm with you, Amber. I would like to see more of the electronic data. I would even like to know a little bit more about maybe Nate's video footage, a deeper dive into that, because one thing that has always stuck out to me is when Frank Sr. was interviewed and Nate is brought up having the footage, and it was something along the lines of like, the officer, whatever, asked Frank, well, did Nate give that footage? And he said, yeah. Oh, yeah. He told them everything that was going on over there. And I'm like, what is everything? I don't know. The way that Frank said it just kind of gave me chills. And that has always stuck with me because I'm like, what possibly could be on Nate's footage that we don't know, we haven't seen? because that was a whole nother thing in the discovery, not trying to get too off topic, but this is what happens. But they were calling Nate back in for another interview, and I believe it was October 31st of 2018. Nate was supposed to be going back in for an interview, and we never know if that happened or what was said. But I think that, again, it really just boils down to like more of the evidence testing, more of the electronics, that kind of data. And obviously, I would like more interviews with NK. Another one with Chris would be nice as well.
Do you think Nicole is in the United States?
Yes, I kind of do. But I have no idea, like, what I think she's doing or where she is. But I do kind of feel like she's still here.
Yeah. We don't keep close tabs like other people try to. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
do really like
nosy, though.
Yeah. But last we heard, she was working for her father in Colorado still.
See, that's nuts, because I kind of was thinking about the same thing when I saw the new big blow up in Colorado, which was that Kimberly Singler. She within a couple of days took off to UK, and she was able to get through all that stuff. So I'm just like thinking possibly she may have jumped the country, but then like you said, I did see that she was apparently employed by her father and still in Colorado. I'm like, that's kind of ballsy for a woman that pretty much destroyed a family and was like deuces, and then she went to the next person. So
it makes me wonder, like, has she tried to change her appearance? We know she changed her name. A lot of people think that she was put in witness protection, but that's been fake news. You don't be put in witness protection if you never were a witness at a trial. And since this ended in a plea deal, that just doesn't really fit.
She's protected by her father.
That's the other thing too, is like, I just don't know like what pull he has. People have said he's a Freemason. People have said he used to be a lawyer or cop and all this stuff. Like, we do know that they knew somebody at the Thornton police station.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, from what we see, he's just an engineer.
And it's more of safety, isn't it? It's like the safety aspect.
I think it was like electric, maybe.
Electric. Somebody said that they said he was involved with safety through Anadarko's engineering program. So I was like, what?
I don't think so.
No, yeah. She worked for safety through some company that they had contracted, which means she had like full access to know like things about those oil tanks, especially like that leak that was going on.
Yes.
Another question I have, and this kind of goes back to like, once again, depending on how you believe Chris and NK truly met, when they truly met, etc. But something that she said in her interview, she was giving her version of how she met Chris and got to know Chris. And she was saying how there was some piece of equipment that kept having significant issues and that she had to go into Chris's office and speak with him about it. And again, I just can't help but wonder, like, what was that piece of equipment? What issues was it having? Like, were those set up so that she could get contact with Chris? But then that would have us believing it really did start when she said, but there's just so many questions. But that was just something with her that always stuck out to me, is she claimed that they were having some pretty significant equipment issues and she had to go to Chris's office. And I would love to know what those were.
Yeah, that's interesting. I forgot about that. I just think that she was given, I really think, I didn't think this until like recently, but I really think that she was given immunity, and that's why she's stayed local in Colorado. And
so you think she's protected, but she's not?
Yes. So it was something that I kind of just had to like look into it. And from what I see, like even people who are very much involved in like a heinous crime, if they're the first to kind of give like valuable information, or, you know, like say, for example, she knew where the girls were, or, you know, something that was like significant. That's the thing that we all want to know, is like, what bombshell evidence was given to Rourke, because he claims that that's why, she was mostly forthcoming and she gave us bombshell information. We don't know what that was. At first I thought like, oh, he's just covering his ass and just saying that. But the more I think about it, I'm like, and the more that I like look into like what immunity is, it seems like maybe that's why she spoke in the tone that she did to the cops. Like she kind of ran the interview. And remember when the father was like, you can't ask that. Like,
yeah, you're leading.
Yeah. And that's not within your, and then he like cuts himself off or what. It's like, what does that mean? That's not within your, it seems like off camera and off the record, there was some sort of deal made. Like, okay, you're going to tell us what you know. Like, I don't know. I really think that maybe that's why she's the way that she is in these interviews, where we're just like, why is she talking to him that way? Like, she doesn't sound like she's in a position of like
buddies.
Yeah, very much so, especially texting Kobach. But I don't know. What do you think, Kelly, about like the immunity theory?
I think it's very plausible. I really do. And I do think that could potentially explain her kind of lax nature. And yeah, the text to Kobach, I almost forgot about those. Those are another fascinating look and conversation in themselves. But yeah, I definitely do think that it's very possible.
And then if that's the case, that she was given immunity for whatever valuable information was given to her or to the cops, I think that even if they reopen the case, I have questions of like, so then what does, because immunity is kind of like a sealed deal. So I just wonder, like, so then would this even lead anywhere if it was reopened?
I mean, it's definitely going to be one of the bigger cases if it's reopened. Like, this is going to be blown out of the water kind of thing. Because people have been, I don't see any like other case at the moment that's been in this high topic demand for the past 5 years. I mean, I watched a little bit back in 2020. And then I thought, yeah, this was just going to be whatever. And it's starting to come back around with you ladies, myself. I mean, I counted the other day that there's like 150 YouTube channels with us included that are talking about this case still.
Yeah, there's just a lot of questions that were just left unanswered. The only cases I've seen this big are like Alex Murdaugh, which wasn't even this big. Like, it kind of fizzled out, even though there's talk of that reopening in another trial. And then Koberger, but again, it still doesn't have the unanswered questions as much as this does.
It seems like a lot of people are being paid off. I don't know what you girls think, but
I think anything is possible. And this case also brings out a lot of very rude people who are like, why are you still talking about this? You have no life. You're an idiot. You think you know better. And it's like, okay, it doesn't bother me, but it's just like, it's fascinating to just note it. I'm like, okay. And Amber and I are like, they don't have pictures half the time. They're newer channels. Like, it's very interesting, that level of it as well.
And that's been going, I can say that even in the Facebook realm and just from being on CDT's channel before I really went on my channel, like, we've seen it on so many different levels of these troll armies. And it's like, are they coming from Jim and NK? Are they coming from the district attorney's office? Are they coming from CBI? And it's like, it really could be any or all of them at separate times attacking our theories, attacking us digging into this. It's just crazy.
So with that being said, I don't know if you guys watched my recent video where I did get a threat that pretty much mentioned that if you continue, things are going to look different.
Wow.
And I'm like, I texted him back. I'm like, I am not scared. I'm sorry. I went to war. I don't see you scaring me. I said, I do this for educational purposes. If this is somebody that might be in this case, I kind of mentioned that you're sadly mistaken, that this is free will. This is free for anybody to watch. I mean, it could be anybody. I'm not saying it's NK. I doubt that she sees any of us, but she's probably looking at, if she's willing to look up how to delete messages from a phone, how to make sure that the cops don't see this, I guarantee she's looking up who's talking about her.
I do agree with that. I very strongly believe that NK and possibly her friend or friends have, I mean, I can't say that I know this for sure, but I do think that, yes, they are looking. I do. I don't think that, just from what we know of her, and like you were saying, the little bit of search history that we do have, she looked up Amber Fry. She looked up Chris's dad's name, his address, Shanann, Chris. I mean, wedding dresses. I definitely think it's likely that she has been watching everything for a long time.
Yeah, and she's still doing it. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we don't have, I would love to know if she had a laptop, what was on any computers in her home, even her work computer where she emailed Chris, what else was on there. I would love to know her relationship with other coworkers, specifically Troy and Cody.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you just reminded me, for one, I know that I heard this in her, I want to say FBI interview, where she says to Mark, the FBI agent, like, I have a laptop, but you guys don't need to take that, right? Or something like that.
That's a good point.
Kelly? Because I can't find that clip, that audio clip. And if anyone can help me out or comment in this section or in the comments below, if you guys know the minute
I
mark.
remember what you're talking about, so I will go back and retract, because I literally just watched it yesterday where she was talking in the white room with her gray shirt, and she goes, I have my laptop, but you don't need that, right? So I remember which one.
Okay.
I think I remember it.
Okay, so it was CBI, not FBI, possibly. So, and for one, I wanted to say thank you for your service. I didn't realize that you were a veteran.
Yeah, I served 5 years active duty for in Fort Lewis, Camp Humphrey. I was all over the place, and then I did some 2 years of reserve. So,
oh, nice. That my brother's in reserves too, and was a former Marine.
I'm sorry. No. We always say that because Marines and Army, he would probably say the same thing. So
it's true. Yeah. But no, so I really want to hear that comment about the laptop. I want to hear that again, because that's, a key piece, and not very many people realize that she never handed over her laptop
or her computer, like Kelly said. Why was her computer not looked at? I guarantee if a woman cares about this man so much, like you said, a woman is not just going to take pictures randomly with some dude that she just met within 6 weeks. She's going to not want to show her friends off or whatever have you. So I don't see that happening. So with that being said, it just, I don't know.
How did she know about his information about like his 401k and stuff like that? And like, she says something about like, I knew that they had money problems, but I didn't know it was that bad until the media.
She knew everything.
Like, okay. So you just know this guy for only 6 weeks and know all about his financials.
She knew his insurance plan. She knew about Shanann's insurance plan. Like, why would you know all that unless she went and kind of did some digging? Because I wholeheartedly believe too that somebody went through her office after this all happened, because her office looked disarrayed. Like, this woman was OCD with everything else but her office, where she spends tons of time in.
Yes, I agree. And Amber and I just discussed that on her channel. Just kind of like when the, police are there and everything, they don't really seem alarmed by the office, even though they've been commenting how pristine the house is. And that's just another little bit of a frustration. But yeah, I'm with you. I believe she researched them heavily, probably did more stalking than we realize.
Scary stalky.
Yes. Why is she looking up Ronnie after the lazy dog and his address? I mean, did she need to show somebody pictures of the house? Were there threats that she needed to say, like, I know where your dad is? I don't know. But it's just very bizarre. Once again, We have so little, and we have these very valid questions based on the evidence we do have. Just imagine the evidence that we don't have, that was possibly never, collected, that wasn't collected, not possibly, that wasn't collected.
Mm-hmm.
I know. The questions just go on. In fact, I had one and now I forget what it was, because there's just so much that it's like, I want to know your guys' thoughts on certain things that I myself have been like, this is kind of weird. I guess I do remember recently sort of thinking this, but it's kind of like another thing that's kind of particular to people who have like, so Shanann had her nose pierced like I have. Like it was a little stud. It's mentioned in her autopsy. She wore it all the time. Agent Tammy asks about, like, does she typically wear a bra to bed, like stuff like that, because that's allegedly where, she was in bed according to Chris, and that's what she was wearing. I think that another follow-up thing would be interesting to know, like, does Shanann take out her like nose stud when she goes to sleep? Because sometimes I take mine out, and that makes me wonder if, like, was Shanann somebody who like put it on in the morning, and because she washed her face a lot, and sometimes like you wash your face without it or something. So it's just a little detail that I'm like, I wonder like if it was normal for Shanann to wear her nose stud to bed. But it's like a question we won't ever really get the answer to.
And that's another thing. I feel like a lot of times, like, we obviously can't hear from the victim once they're gone, right? But so many times we have more of their text messages or interviews with their friends. Like, they never had an interview in there with Jamie or Chris's parent. Well, Ronnie, yes, but Cindy, even I don't think Sandy had a verbal interview. Again, we don't have a lot of her text messages. Like, it's just so much that we just don't have.
Well, why didn't they look at Charlotte or
Exactly.
Jim? You
Or
talk so much about them. Where
Yeah.
are they?
And the girl that she hosted, she said that her friend Danielle, who she first made it sound like Daniel, I hosted her the weekend of the Lazy Dog. Now, I would want to know, what do you mean hosted her, NK? Did she spend the night Saturday? If she was spending the night Saturday, where was she when you and Chris were having your time together, when you got back from the Lazy Dog and when you were looking up your searches before you left? Like, I don't know. And then where was she when she went to the museum with her dad that she couldn't remember and did leg day? So I would like to know more about that word. I hosted her that week, or, I hosted her. What does that mean?
So many different directions.
Yeah. Did you ever see the CCTV video of Chris at the gas station?
I did. I was gonna make a YouTube video on that, but I didn't. I was actually gonna wait till I talk with you girls, and kind of like some stuff is going weird there.
Yeah. So that was after their date, and Ronnie and Chris, they've all made statements sort of along the lines of like they wished that that never happened, like he didn't go there, and that he should have gone to the Rockies game or
Yes.
whatever. So in that footage, I was just going to ask your opinion. Like, he looks, decently dressed, like date night, but he's
like a white t-shirt or shirt.
Yeah, and like some decent jeans, but he's wearing socks and flip-flops. And like socks with slides, like, okay, these are my slides. I'm wearing them right now. But
Yeah.
I've seen guys wear socks with slides sometimes. And I don't know why, but it's whatever. But socks with flip-flops.
On a date?
Yeah, that's where I'm like, is that something you would do?
I can tell you all the dates that I have been, I'm going to dress up to the point where I'm trying to impress this lady. Socks and flip-flops or whatever he was wearing is not show, like, but unless he was comfortable because he was with Nicole. Like, it's not a first date, it's a comfortable date. Like, you probably would go out with your husband, or I would go out with my fiance. You're comfortable, you're going on a romantic date, but you don't care what you look like.
Right. And again, that's just another issue that maybe could have been figured out if they had asked people who knew Chris well. Would he normally wear socks with his slides or flip-flops or whatever? Because again, like, so many people think that possibly the grave was dug on Saturday night. That's a theory out there. So
it's a big hole.
When you really look at the timeline, like, there is room to question how tight that timeline was.
You are 100%. Like, I can tell you, I've dug some holes for my parents, for like when they did their addition and stuff like that. And to dig that hole, and just within what they left at 5 and he came back at 9, there's no way you could have dug that hole that fast that morning.
Right. And then, Troy arrives and the other coworkers. Troy said he didn't look sweaty or anything like that. And again, it was still early, but it was summer. It was hot. So that is just, once again, if this had gone to trial, and I'm not defending Chris, like, nobody get that twisted. I'm just saying, like, if this had gone to trial, I think that would have been really laid out and argued by a defense team.
It would have nailed the coffin for Chris, but it would have nailed the coffin for Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Questioned.
For sure. And even so, his confessions have changed over time, we've said, but even that morning, like, speaking of changing, like, in the footage of Nate, he's wearing a black shirt. In the footage that he has when he's coming home with Nicole Atkinson there, he's got a gray shirt on. According to Troy McCoy's interview, he had a blue shirt on at some point that morning. So that whole of the changing the shirts and stuff, it's questionable. I just don't understand it. But your thoughts?
I mean, I don't change my shirt that much. Unless I change throughout the day, unless I get something on it, I make a mistake or something like that. But you're changing your shirt 5 times in a day?
And then he goes to the police station on Tuesday, does an interview with Coder in that North Carolina shirt, and then he wears the same exact outfit the next day when he goes in with Tammy.
So he's willing to have it on for a whole night, but the day before he's changing 5 times?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very good point. Like, I'm glad I had this live, because there's things that you guys are bringing up. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I didn't know about certain things, or like the whole gas station. Like, I was thinking about it, but I'm like, I wonder what you ladies thought as well. So it's things that there are other aspects of this case that we haven't looked at. Like I told with 50 States of Madness that I asked them too. This goes possibly up past senators and government officials. Like we're talking higher ups.
Yeah, it's.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think the fact that, just how horrific it is that the girls were found in the oil tanks. I mean, that is absolutely horrific. And it's like, how did that happen? How was there not more safety? Why did it take so long to find them? Like, was there not more monitoring? Why are there no cameras? Like, all those questions, if this had truly gone through and gone to trial, would have been brought up. And then another thing, I have a video on this, but the fact that they released the house as of Wednesday at midnight is mind-boggling.
That fast.
Yes.
Things are shut down for weeks, months, possibly years after. They're like, oh, 2 days, we're good.
Yeah, anyone who has a key can get in here, no problem. And then the mysterious black SUV and female, I mean, it goes on and on. It's so bizarre.
And if you look up, like, just in the discovery, the Blue Star chemical stuff that they use to find blood.
Oh, yes.
So there was none, like, down the drains or in the sink, in the bathroom. Like, so it wasn't
down the stairs.
Yeah, it wasn't like he cleaned up and then got rid of things. Like, that will pull through any cleaning product and you'll still find blood.
I mean, you'll start to see fecal matter. that stuff picks it up sometimes as well, because you obviously sometimes
Oh yeah.
have that problem in your stool. So she did apparently defecate, is what he said. She said, or he said she did.
Yeah.
And if he took her down the stairs, you can't tell me nothing dropped,
Yeah.
nothing fell.
So then did they release it because they knew at that point it didn't happen here? Because myself and my moderator, Scottish Queen, and I think CDT are under the impression everything happened at Survey. Like that's where they were killed, in my opinion.
For my partake, I think it happened in the basement, because that's why the dogs alerted so much, because the traumatic dog went off the haywire. The other dog didn't do as much as the other dog did, but it alerted here and there up inside their marital bedroom. I think once or twice in the bathroom, did a few times in Cece's room. But when that dog went downstairs in the basement, that dog could not stop barking. And I'm wondering it's because the traumatic event had taken place down there, because maybe she came home, he was in his separation bed, Shanann came downstairs, had possibly that purple mask that was on her head, or somebody else's mask, but she came down, was away from Chris so long that she probably tried to get something. He denied her, made it look like he was going to be intimate with her, but then that's when I looked at the autopsy, is there was a forcefulness to the right side than the left. So that means he was possibly had her hands above her head, possibly, and had pushed down harder where her head turned left. I mean, that started adding up for me. So I don't know what Kelly thinks.
Basement is interesting. There's something that happened down there, I think.
I honestly do not have a set theory on where I think everything happened, but here is what I am pretty set on. I do believe the girls left alive. I believe Shanann was taken out the back. Either she was already passed or alive, taken out the back. One question I have too, in regards to where everything happened. So remember the video when there was a call that it seemed like people were in the house or whatever, and it was Chris's defense team.
Yes.
And you see the two officers go in, they're talking, there's a lady on the couch. You can see evidence markers kind of in that, it was, I could think, like built to be a dining room, but I don't believe they had a table in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't help but wonder, like, maybe something was taken through there or happened through there. But I do not believe that he loaded Shanann deceased into his truck. That is one thing I don't believe. I do agree that something happened in the basement. Even Tammy, when they went back and spoke to him in prison, was like, yeah, there was a lot of movement, and with the door being open and shut. I also do think it's very possible that you can go out a basement window. There are walk-through windows. So, yeah, I think something happened in the basement. I do think the girls left alive. But other than that, I don't know what to think. But yeah, I do think there's something to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And was never bagged off, tagged off.
No.
Pictures. I don't think they ever took pictures down there.
You're right.
Yeah, no, just the body cam. And remember when they were down there with one of the dogs and they realized like halfway through their little like search that one of the fans for something down there was on, and they're like, oh, turn that off. That could interfere with the scent or whatever. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I could be blowing all over the house now. I mean,
Right.
it's like, shouldn't you have all that done right away?
Mm-hmm.
What the coolers are another thing that bothers me in the basement. Those two open coolers. Once again, that could have maybe been cleared up by asking Shanann's parents, like, do you know where they usually stored their coolers? Like, was it a habit to leave them open? I don't know. The two open coolers, I believe there were two. And then Chris was seen loading a cooler into the back of the Lexus. Like, where was that found? Did he dispose of it? And then in K, when they went camping, You can probably tell I'm like getting heated. This just makes me mad. But in K, when they went camping, there was something about the ice. And I believe, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't she like trying to say like, I didn't get the ice, like Chris went in the store, I didn't go in.
She totally distanced herself from the ice purchase, and she said she used the terminology they needed to re-up on ice. Like I mean, I only know a specific group of people
and they're younger
type that will say the word
re-up.
You know, and we know that she went to rehab. Like, these little things kind of stick out to me. Like, did she have a substance abuse problem? Was she using drugs with Chris to kind of like influence him a certain way? Because, certain drugs can make you very susceptible to influence and
well, could that be connected to that green lighter that you guys were mentioning not too long ago?
I mean,
that somebody was doing something in the car, and then it could be like, okay, I'll do whatever you want kind of thing. I wouldn't say it like that, but it could be something where you're hypnotized, is what Chris called it. He couldn't figure out what was controlling his body.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there was like maybe meth use or something. Like, if you look at the photos and videos of Chris in North Carolina, like at the beach, he doesn't look like he's just in shape. He looks like emaciated in a way. And that was like
sick.
Yeah, that was right after his little sand dune trip
where they did some weird stuff, he said.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's something very sketchy.
They were caught naked.
Barely ever talked about with Chris. Like, what happened at the sand? That's never even like really dug into.
Which I do have to put this in there, which is kind of creepy. That same sand dunes is where Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were at.
I know.
And that's where that she had passed, wasn't it?
She had visited it, like, I think the day prior. She was found.
Oh yeah, the day prior.
Wyoming, like on the border, I think but it was one of her last stops with Brian was there, leading up to the days that she died, the day she died. But I think also the sand dunes have been tied into Brian Kohberger's case as well.
For some reason, somebody posted this on I read this morning. They said in Colorado, in this area, apparently, again, I don't necessarily believe in this, there's a hellmouth over there.
Well, from what we saw, there is a lot of like satanic and culty type stuff in Colorado specifically. Like, it's like they like moved there decades ago, and then they've just lived there and raised more family there. And it's like, isn't that what you kind of got the vibe from too, CDT, at like that Crest area or whatever?
Yeah. And there was yes, there was also some number that she called. His last name is Zardy, and people like, because I printed out her entire phone records and
she's going old school. Just
yeah,
the list.
I had my highlighter and like coded them and wrote notes by them. But yeah, yes, there are like cult ties out there, and like there was some night of the Prophet Bride thing going on that night, the 13th, I believe. So I should go back, Amber, and look at my posts in groups, because I know I've posted about this. It's just been years since I have.
In fact, I think when I met Kelly, she was definitely down this rabbit hole of like there being like a ritualistic.
Yeah.
I wanted to know about from you girls what you thought about. Do you think I can't say, yeah, it's witchcraft, but she apparently also worships some deity as well.
Yeah.
And their sacrifices is an unborn child, which I want to know what you guys thought.
That picture of her in Peru. That's what took place there, was child sacrifices. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And that's why she was buried, because she was offered to the land.
And I think that's another reason why there was some text messages when things were falling apart between Shanann and Chris, where she was telling her friends that like she asked him if she should end the pregnancy or something, and he said no or something. Wasn't there something along the lines of that, Kelly? And then so she didn't terminate it or something. And then for my reason, I'm like, did he need her pregnant like for this sacrifice?
Because he was told, hey, you do this, wash my back, I'll wash your back, kind of thing. and he got the brunt or the bad end of it because he did his part, but then Anna and Darko on the bigger ups didn't do their part.
There's something to this whole her being pregnant and this.
Or she gave him a drink that was weird and she didn't drink it.
That I don't know much about that theory, like with that, what was it called again? Devil's breath.
Yeah, devil's breath.
See, that kind of came into play after Chris connected with Cadel. And like he's just changed his story so much that I really do try to stick to like his first statements because he just keeps lying
over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing. I would say this like a broken record. Okay, people, every single person involved or not involved, every single person who is following or invested in this case, whether you think like it's perfectly wrapped up, Chris did it, he acted alone, we're crazy, or you think there's more to it. Every single one of us, to some degree, pick and choose what we believe from Chris Watts. Some of us believe some things, some believe others, but ultimately he is a liar and he is a pathological liar. He even says that himself. And so is NK. They both lie very easily. And so that's all we're doing is we're picking and choosing what we believe from Chris, what we don't. And then we're using the very minute evidence that we have and we're raising discussion and questions. But for people just to say, oh, well, he said he did it all. He did it. But then yet you don't believe that maybe NK was drugging him because he did say that, you know, like that you don't believe Shanann did it. He said that too. Like, and don't get it wrong. Like, I don't think Shanann touched her children at all.
No.
But I just think like you can't say Chris said he did it all. He confessed. And that's why, like, he lied. His confession also didn't fully match the little bit of scientific evidence that we do have.
Mm-hmm. And the physical evidence too. Some of it was off. So it's like, what? There was something I wanted to say too, to follow up what Kelly was saying. And now I'm like having a hard time remembering it. All I was going to say is like very recently it's been stated by inmates that are with Chris that they don't think we're ever going to get the truth. So to me, that means people that he spends all day and night with don't even believe the story that's out there.
Because he's probably saying a whole bunch of things like that guy that left the prison and said, hey, he confided in me and said, yeah, Nicole killed the girls.
David Carter.
Yeah.
Like we've been in contact with multiple inmates of Chris that knew Chris and spoke with Chris, and they all have told Kelly and I, like, no, there's more. We don't have the full truth, and we think the mistress is definitely involved. And these are people who spend day and night like beside him in these four walls or where this building that he's in that no one else can get to him at. And as far back as we can remember, it's been people saying like, something's not right. But even up to date, as far as December, less than a month ago, an inmate is saying they know that we all talk about him pretty much. Like Chris knows that social media and even TikTok has put out like that he got in a fight and it wasn't true. So these things kind of get back to him and he kind of like probably has like a chuckle about it, because he knows that like we don't have the truth. And apparently inmates are stating like, I don't think we're ever going to get the truth.
And he'll die and he'll go to death with it.
I have a question real quick. Do you guys think that we will ever hear another interview from Chris? Because can't media go in there and interview him if he agrees to it? Do you think we will or no?
Well, that's excuse me. That's funny that you asked that because 2 days ago I put in for at his jail where he goes to jail. I asked to meet him. I put in to meet him. He denied me.
Interesting.
Wow.
Because I wanted to keep it secret and I put in about it in October. I just heard about it 2 to 3 days ago.
Okay.
And I asked I would like to just have an interview with him, keep it respectful and so forth. There's a couple questions I had.
Mm-hmm.
It was disqualified for interview.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes
Why?
me wonder if so many journalists do the same thing.
But why that Cato girl?
Yes.
What
Yeah,
does
why
she have
her?
over everybody?
My
And
face
that's
is
what
the
I
same as
really
yours. Like, why? I don't
I
understand.
wonder if it had gone better with Cadel, if he would have spoke more, or did she go so off the rails and like screw it up for everybody?
And blow it out of proportion, and then she's
Yes.
throwing out stuff to make her book
Mhm.
seem darker, because
Yeah.
news thrives off of bad.
Yes.
All I know is when he does his prison interview, and anyone can go and listen to it, gives unsure answers about if her Shanann's eyes filled with blood, like pretty much your capillaries in your eyes burst with that type of fatality. And he said he would like no at first, and then he like changes it later in the interview and says like maybe that's when they filled with blood. Well, when I looked into this, I looked at her autopsy, and you can see that it states that her eyes were white. Like she actually didn't have that hyoid bone in your neck broken, so it wasn't a hard strangulation like it was for Gabby Petito, and her eyes were white. So there was no breaking of the capillaries, and yet
We lied about that.
yeah. So then he talks to Cadel, and he decides to tell Cadel this whole, well, she writes in her book that her eyes filled with blood and all this stuff. And it's like, but that's not what happened, like according to science. So
Yeah.
that's just another example of how he's kind of been wishy-washy about what happened and what she looked like.
Yeah. Interesting. Like we could go for hours.
I know. It goes
So
quick.
I mean, this could be a part 2, who knows, but we do got to get off of here because we got some stuff we have to take care of tonight, and obviously tomorrow we're still like you people in the chat. We're still normal people that live our days and
Yeah.
and so forth. So anything else you guys or ladies want like to add before we get off here today?
I just want to real quick just say that, remember how she called the rehab facility? I think that those are interesting dates. I think there were at least 2 on here. To me, that's just another interesting aspect to the entire case. I absolutely do believe it is possible, allegedly, in my opinion, that she was drugging him. Just like, again, we're picking and choosing, right, what we believe from
Yeah.
Chris. I do think that that is possible. And one reason why is because NK offered up information about how he would fall asleep, and she tried to kind of blame it on Thrive. And then he also mentioned that.
Oh.
So once again, I think every single thing NK brings up, there's a motive and a reason behind it. Same with how she brought up, he was meeting for that fire stick. I really feel like in that instance, she was fishing for what they knew about the fire stick, because they're like, well, did you know like who it was? And she's like, no, don't know, didn't ask. But then when he was on the phone with a realtor, she's like, oh, I know it was a realtor. I can't remember the name. He told me because he was on the phone. And I'm like, who is that? So I'm like, you're prying about this one phone call, but yet you don't pry about the fire stick.
Exactly.
And remember, she said about the babysitter, she was like, it was a young girl, but she couldn't stay nights.
Yeah. Yes. Like, how and why do you need to know that?
Yeah. So she knows a lot about certain things, but not a lot about this whole fire stick meetup and who it was with. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. So I don't know about you ladies, but it sounds like a lot of them want a part 2. Maybe we'll look at it again because again, we can continue. Yeah. So with that being said, I've definitely had some fun. Definitely finding things out I still didn't know myself through you ladies. So you guys got some stuff that I never knew. So maybe I need to start digging down those alleys as well. So
there's a lot.
There's too much. Blue glove, all the medications, the basement, and the wasp. I mean, it could go on and on and on. So, but with that being said, we adieu for the YouTube channel. You guys have a great night.
Thank
You
you
ladies
so
have a
much
good
for
night.
having me.
Yes,
sure
it's
you go-
nice to meet you.
Yes, make sure you guys go. If you guys are still here, go over to their channel, watch their stuff. They've been doing this longer than I have because I've seen that because I fell off of it for a while. They did it too, but they've been doing this a little bit longer than I have. So go give them some love, and we'll see you guys all in our next streams and videos.
Yep. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, did I fall off of there? So with that being said, guys, I am done. Am I still continuing this? Nope, it's done.